Good evening.
Good evening.
Evening.
My first choice wasn't to be here tonight. It was to be downtown celebrating my son's graduation from law school. UNC. I hate to say that, but he's.
Congratulations, Fred.
Anyway, my second choice would have been at the Shuckin' Shack or Fat Pete. So maybe I'll see you there later. But
Probably will.
because fear is a big motivator, I'm here tonight because I'm afraid of what's happening in this town, this country, of what I call society of permission. We have to get permission from everybody today. And one of the things I think driving this is is what's happening is, and I didn't make this up, someone much smarter than I said, the power to tax is the power to destroy. And so what you, ladies and gentlemen, have here tonight is the power to tax and the power to destroy. It's pretty simple. Everybody in this room has been talking about it because you're talking about all these public projects. And unfortunately, I'd have to say, nothing personal, but I think this is all a abdication of us locally and across the country, everywhere from education to, health care, a lot of different things. But it started with the advent of the professional planners, whether you like it or not. I'm not a big fan of professional planners, okay? Because they plan, and if they don't work. They have to do something to justify their existence, like a surgeon has to operate to make a living, okay? And so I think today what we're dealing with is what I call crony municipalityism. In other words, so we always have these projects. Somebody wants to have this project and that project, but they don't essentialize them. So that's what's happened to today. We get these projects like what this lady is talking about, building, a new whatever, costing millions of dollars. Or we got a project to, we'll just build us another little building so that the lifeguards can use the bathroom. I don't know about you folks, when I grew up, if I had to take a leak, I went in the ocean. That's as simple as that. So what I want you to think about, and I'm not trying to, come down on you or anything, because I think all of you are sincere about your job and what you want to do, and I really think you're doing a pretty fair job. But before you start taxing me at 75, it's going to drive me off this island. I'm on a fixed budget. This town's not on a fixed budget in a sense, because it can always come to the people, not necessarily with their consent, but they can raise taxes. So before you start raising taxes on me and driving me off the island, think twice about it.
Thank you.
That was the last on the list to sign up. If anyone else out in the public would like to approach council before we move into
The budget.
public hearing.
No, we have
Well,
one
we got a
public hearing.
CUP
For the
first.
budget.
Oh, I've been waiting.
Do we need to find
Well,
out?
I was going to suggest, Mr. Mayor, that we go ahead and let these gentlemen present their
Yeah.
CUP and then take a break before
Yeah.
the budget, because they look like they might be getting a little sleepy over there, Mr. Barnes and Mike. You okay
All
with
right,
that?
sir.
Or you got-
Yes, I'm good.
And I
we'll
think we
need
probably
5
need to
minutes
take a
after.
break before the budget,
Yep,
though,
yep.
since you gentlemen always like bathroom breaks.
Okay, after that.
After this.
Yeah. The next item on the agenda is a public hearing to consider a conditional use permit application. All individuals intending to testify must come forward and be sworn in by the town clerk.
Oh, I thought he came just about the budget.
At this time, I open the evidentiary hearing. I would like the town attorney to give a brief overview of a quasi-judicial hearing.
Mayor, council, citizens, y'all have heard this spill before, but this hearing that is getting ready to come before council is a quasi-judicial hearing. That means that this is an evidentiary hearing, much like would take place in a court of law, which means that council must follow specific procedures required by state law in making its decision tonight. Specifically, the board's discretion is limited. You must base your decision on the competent, substantial, and relevant evidence that is presented, the folks that have just been sworn in. If you're speaking as a witness, please focus on the facts and the standards, not personal preference or opinion. If you intend to testify, please not offer unsupported opinions or speculation, because the board cannot consider this testimony in this type of hearing. Please limit your testimony to relevant and competent, substantial, and material evidence. Before we begin, counsel, the parties or the party that will appear before you tonight is entitled to have the matter judged by an impartial decision maker. If you have a conflict of interest, you must not participate. A conflict of interest exists if you have a close familial, business, or other relationship with an affected person, or a financial interest in the outcome of the matter. Does any member of the board have any conflict, partiality to disclose, or recusal to offer?
No.
No.
Does any member of the board have any ex parte communications to disclose?
None.
No.
Nope.
Okay.
Staff's presentation, Jeremy.
Thank you, Ms. Fox. This is a conditional use permit to consider an expansion of Superior Auto to add 3 bays. It's located on 3 lots at 109 Sumter, 107, and 105 South 2nd Street. The existing automobile structure was built in 1988. It has 4 bays with an office consisting of 1,860 square feet. Just quickly, the adjacent uses that surround the property to the west are vacant lots. To the north is a vacant lot and also a single-family home. To the south is a multifamily complex, and east is the restaurant A&G Barbecue, and also a single-family property. So there is a variety of uses adjacent to the property. It was rezoned when it originally was built from highway business to neighborhood business in 2006. And this was the area that was rezoned, was a stretch adjacent to Lake Park Boulevard from the lake to Carolina Sands subdivision entrance. The reason it was zoned for neighborhood business from highway business was the majority of that area was residential in nature, and highway business did not allow for residential standalone properties, and neighborhood business did to accommodate those. However, the neighborhood business did not allow for automobile repair garages, which made this use non-conforming. So an ordinance was changed in 2017 to allow automobile repair garages with a conditional use permit as a result, because of its proximity to residential and zone properties. The neighborhood business, here's a map of the area. Like I said, it does extend from the lake to Carolina Sands. The uses consist of single family. There are some retail, offices, a restaurant, a laundromat, and the automobile repair garage, as mentioned. This district provides to accommodate service activities of providing goods and personal services to the immediate neighborhood. Currently, there's 3 zones that automobile repair garages are allowed. One is the highway business, which is permitted by right, as well as the industrial and neighborhood business. There are some specific standards that the applicant must make provisions for. The expansion to accommodate the the additional bays, they will be excuse me. They will be improving the existing ingress and egress to accommodate 2-way traffic. For there's existing 2 driveway cuts, they will be expanding those to 24 feet. The off-street parking, they will be identifying, demarking the parking spaces. There will be a total of 30 spaces. They are providing a fence-in area to separate from customer parking to cars that are in the process of either waiting to be worked on or to be picked up, to a secure area for that as well. The refuse trash will be no change. They will be having rollaway trash containers. Utilities, there's no upgrade in water or sewer that are going to be required for the additional bays. Screening and buffering, they will be landscaping street trees along Second Street, but they are asking for a landscape buffer just because of the existing conditions of the automobile repair garage. So the ordinance does allow for a waiver to be granted for that. The fence that I mentioned before is proposed to be a 6-foot chain link fence for the parking area to be secure. Within the required 20-foot setback area, the ordinance requires fence height to be 4 feet, but with a granted of a conditional use permit, they can extend it to 6 feet, which they are asking for as well. No new signs are proposed, and the building does meet the required setbacks and lot coverage for the district. Before you is the action of approval. Must be consistent with the findings in the zoning ordinance, or a denial should be directly related to one or more of the following findings, as you see before you. Staff, as well as planning and zoning, did recommend approval of the conditional use permit of the expansion. This area is in the mixed use 1 district of the land use plan. It is consistent with the area, which it does include providing commercial services. The request for approval included to install the 6-foot fence request into the 20-foot front setback yard, and also a waiver on the adjacent landscaping requirement. Conditions, because the property is located in a flood zone, of course, the automobile repair bay will be on the ground floor. To meet flood requirements, it will be required to be flood proofed. And also, because the lot is existing, the property is on 3 lots, a recombination plat would be required before a building permit. And I'll answer any questions that you have.
Staff? P&Z was unanimous?
Yes, sir.
Sure. Okay. All right. The applicant may now present, excuse me, evidence and legal arguments in support of the request, sir.
Mr. Mayor, council members, Ned Barnes, 814 Carolina Beach Avenue North, right here in Carolina Beach. The bottom line is Mr. Malta has been there for around 14 years, and his business has continued to expand over the years that he's been there. He has just an excellent reputation here on the island. Certainly that speaks well of Mr. Malta, since I think auto technicians are about on par with attorneys in public opinion polls. But we would contend that in this situation, there's, other than expanding the building, it meets all 7 of the criteria. The ingress and egress will be the same. They're going to expand their access into the property for safety reasons. As was mentioned here earlier, all parking requirements have been met. Refuse will not change. The utilities will not change. The screening and buffering, there's plans to improve the landscaping there, but they are asking for that 1 waiver on the buffer. And then as far as the fence is concerned, for the protection of the vehicles, they have requested that the fence be 6 feet to keep other folks out of the area and also to protect the vehicles that are in there. There's no change in signs at all, and the open space is met, and they're certainly more than willing to meet the conditions set up about flood proofing the property and replatting the property as the one map. We certainly would contend under the general conditions that the use will not materially endanger the public health or safety. Use meets all required conditions and specifications as currently exists now as an auto repair facility. The use will not substantially injure the value of the adjoining property, which again, there's no change other than an expansion. So what's there is there, they're just expanding it. and that the location, if developed, is in harmony, and we contend that also meets the criteria. Mr. Reynolds is here, he drafted the plans. If you have any specific questions, I'm sure he'd be glad to address those.
Does the board have any questions for the
I have a
witness?
question about the fence. Is that a chain link fence or a wooden fence? What,
Chain link,
okay. Pretty much like what's there now.
pretty much what's there now.
Okay. Questions? Any other questions? No? Okay. Does the applicant have any other witnesses to call? Okay, with that, then, I make a motion to open for public hearing. All those in favor? Aye. Would the public like to approach? Sir?
I need to be sworn into,
Yes.
Yes.
I swear on my honor, tell the truth, the whole truth. So I would submit evidence in support of this gentleman's business, the Permission Society. It leads right into what I was talking about before. Why God's green earth? We need to be brought in, or he needs brought in here, hire this man, come in, speak to him, to build something on his own property is just beyond comprehension to me. It's just beyond comprehension. So, in that vein, you know, don't do it again.
Thanks, sir.
It's to you to read.
I had all kinds of time. I do. Need a new book, sir. I appreciate that.
But I put my name and address in there, I would like it back.
And we are live streaming on
Thank you, Mr.
Facebook, so there's
Fisher.
plenty of people who watch that transaction. Anyone else from the public? Okay, with that, I make a motion to close public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Any other witness?
Yeah, I'd make a motion to approve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Well, you gotta go.
Well,
Hold on.
You want to?
Stand by.
It must be,
Yeah,
it's
I'm in a
consistent. with
hurry.
the, I find it consistent with the zoning ordinance, and it meets all 7 required findings, general conditions 1 through 4, all conditions is listed in the granting order.
Yeah.
Was that close
Sir.
enough?
Ms. Fox?
The 4 and 7 conditions.
Yes.
Yes.
Meets all 7 required findings, general conditions 1 through 4, all conditions is listed.
Is there a motion statement, Jeremy?
Land use plan
Consistent with the land use plan.
Yeah, are you,
as presented?
yeah, are you granting the waiver? Wasn't there a
Yes, as
request?
they presented it. Yeah. The fence in the 20-foot setback and the landscape waiver and the height on the fence, yes. Because I believe in yes,
Yes. And
except for when you're dealing with teenagers.
He's a co-author.
okay, before I get out of hand. Leanne?
I just want to say that I've done business with Mike for many years, and him and his staff have always been very courteous and respectful people in our community. So appreciate, you coming to us. And it's a service to our community to have a place that we can use on the island. So I'm certainly in favor. I would only ask that maybe you would consider, and I know that's at your personal thoughts, that the slatted fence that I also would recommend the town of Carolina Beach use, and all their chain link fence around town, but I haven't been able to accomplish that yet either, but just maybe look at that, I just think it looks good. But that's up to you, and I was also asking the town to do the same thing, so I haven't, I'm sorry, Ms. Attorney Fox, but yes, I'm in favor. I know what that look means. Let's get my point out.
Call for the question.
He's
All
right
right.
in the middle of a motion.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Hey, I make a motion to recommend approval of the conditional use permit.
Well, he's already
Full
made the.
He made
Oh,
it.
I haven't heard a motion.
Steve
did it.
made a
Leanne
motion.
Steve made
jumped
a
in.
motion.
Leanne cut him off to talk about the fence.
God.
Yep.
I was just
Okay.
making a suggestion, I'd like to
Still
see the
standing.
fence that way.
Okay, then with that motion stated, the question's been called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thanks, Mike.
Very good.
And Mr. Attorney, the car mechanics, lawyers, and politicians, we're a close third. All right. So
Thanks for
I'm
waiting, guys.
going to make, not a motion, I'm going to recess the meeting for 10 minutes. Everyone back, please, at 9:10 PM.
Mike, I think your reputation's better than the lawyer,
No matter what he said, the internet says.
no matter what he said. I bet didn't recognize you. You lost weight. Hey, Bill.
Taking care of our vehicles in Caroline Beach.
We'll post them on Facebook. You can always shoot me an email and count it. That when it comes up, I can always say, hey, it's good. You know, I said, like, I shoot you an email. I'll post it then. Parks and Rec first Monday if you want.
Mr. Mayor, how about
Well, I'm glad you were here for. By the way, the lady who's working for you at the front, what's her name?
otherwise I wouldn't be here.
She's awesome. She'll call me, text me, take care of everything I need to take care of. She's awesome. That's a keep.
What I love to hear more, he's gonna do a line.
No, someone told me about that book.
So editorial.
As soon as you said that, let me write this down.
Okay. Man, I see that water train and see before I can get a hold of it.
Dropping it out one time. You can do run in, drop in for an hour and see what your bank process is. After it's done, it's going to be a blow. Show me something, I'll shoot you on the phone.
I'm Neil Shelton.
Oh, nice. Sure. What's that? This is dependencies.
It doesn't stop. Projects. There aren't any dependencies on you. So are there any dependencies? Yeah. I've seen too many things placed in the budget where you do this $20,000 project and then you have to do this $1 million project.
The whole streetscape in the world looking into
Projects, item by item.
I mean, they should indicate that.
Okay.
Like that, the first whole block had that nice middle area with the trees.
They're talking about trying to clear the justice, make people there for widening out.
Exactly. Oh, yeah, he's the guy. He always does that.
Plus, it's like, rent there, it's like,
If they're standalone, that's good. Put it up there.
As they stage that, they'll make sure to, you know,
they were doing public use and
you've been down Cape Fear.
yes, I mean,
So, you know, that's the C merchants. There's,
They just throw
they
numbers
have,
up on
looks
the
like
wall.
units as for this resident specific.
yeah.
The other ones where those blocks, run, you see that there's still set
That's the other thing I was going to talk about. No priority.
Like right there.
You don't want to, anything the bike is the multi-use path in Clarendon more important
Busy,
than
it's like I'm home and it's like, so.
But two separate buckets of money.
You're like, come on, man.
okay.
I know.
You're going to be traveling.
Well, I have this, I felt really silly because I'm like, oh, a sign-in sheet, I'm gonna sign in.
It's a balance.
And then Dave was like, what do you sign your receipt for? I'm like,
But I think we should do it.
I didn't. She's like, well, that's what that's for. I'm like, all right, so I'll stand up and tell everybody how awesome you are. And I want to be more
I thought I lost him, and he's up here complaining.
I'm not complaining. I just want to see any budget. I want to see dependencies, and I want to see priorities.
We'll get there.
I talk about things that are happening, and I'm like, what are you talking about?
I think it was $1 million.
I'm not on Facebook anymore. Yeah, I'm not on Facebook.
It was all the same now.
All right. Healthy, I see, huh?
So hungry.
2% property tax increase, not for profit. A lot of it wants to go towards staff. I'm trying to get two other votes.
Make yourself.
I got a question for you. I was a code enforcement officer many years
Hey, man, I'm mostly a yes guy. I don't want to live on an island. I don't want to be on an island to know. I don't want to say no.
You're gonna volunteer for something.
I don't know, right?
You heard her.
I'm right.
You got to do with this, sir.
I'm really good. You guys?
And that's why he had. Well, that's why you know the Jackson I had. We changed it for him in 2017. He used to be highway business district. Everyone in Carolina came in and said, "So we can only have residential." So they took him out of highway business and put it in neighborhood business, and you can't have a garage in neighborhood business. That ain't fair to him. He's been there since 1993.
Yeah.
So give him what he wants
He
to do.
lives in Carolina.
You want to put a house in front of the guy, he's been there. And you build your house, but you take into account, you got to take into account his garage and there.
But now it's like, okay, we're gonna slow down, like, now it's like, now we have 4 months, it's now 5, and they make a shift.
It's a balance. It's a balance. I mean,
But what I was going to suggest is
Now it's very good.
start, you've got
Basic.
it's a tough code enforcement law. In
I
North
did.
Carolina, it's tough. In North Carolina, you have the right to enter a private rental. You can do commercial, you can't do necessarily. So there's some wood trucks. You can do commercial.
About private rentals.
Those guys, well, so what they're doing on that right now, we've gone to the county a couple times because the room occupancy tax is county tax. So we've come up with
It is, because right now it's hard for everyone to take time off.
VRBO, some of the other.
She's the best person you have, I can take her.
So we are starting to
Me, so you take 4 days off, it's like,
it's still,
Then we slide up. But see,
instead of doing 2 days here, 3 days here.
it pays for the fireworks, it pays for the lifeguard, it pays for a few things, but it doesn't pay for our street. It doesn't pick up our trash.
Everything's always going to be
It's a tough one. Now, I will tell you this.
but they have
We can't do that in North Carolina, change it. We can't charge license fees. I will tell you this, we haven't raised taxes. We haven't raised property taxes. We did revenue neutral. We went under revenue neutral last time we had a revaluation. So if your taxes, you're paying for, they reduce the value of the property, you reduce the value of your tax. So the rates have, this year, this is the first time we're struggling about it. Points, you know, going from 22 to 24. It costs you $20 more a month. It doesn't sound like a year, but it's
Just so you know.
it's a lot.
And he is, you're right. I didn't do it.
I'm not saying you're wrong, I just like to know.
Budget, no. It goes to the state legislature.
Then I went and turned and I got information.
Stay on the south side, you're looking at.
That's the only source of revenue. That's a legislative. That's a North Carolina issue. Which shot? Jump in. Jump in. The water's warm.
yes.
I need water in there. I don't want to just complain about it, I want to provide you guys another solution. I'm going to that.
Yeah.
Does it still have battery life?
It's not showing it. Oh, that's because you're in VOA, I think. VOA won't show it.
Oh, well, that's
Yeah, you have to get out of VOA. I shot 86. I would have done better, but I was having too much fun. My dad, he was making me laugh way too much with my dad because he kept making fun of my swing. You know, right when I swing, there's one guy who talks. Like, we were playing with a person, my dad's like, that's why he did it. That's why he will do it to the day he dies. I pinged off some amazing drives, and on my second shot, I'm sitting there and going, "What are you doing? No, don't do that. No." And it's like, don't do that, club. Like, that's not. But I enjoy every moment. Right. And I don't know if my dad does that just with his school card, because but he always seems like no, but he always has his school card.
Of course, much younger. Yeah, now it's like, okay, before I could get all my lives. That was
I'm losing my mind. I swear it was right here a second ago. My glass, yeah. Well, we get 3 of them. We can start. No, no, no. I was like,
Festivities out there? Before we hired him, he was already set for vacation this week.
All right, everybody, let's get back at this. I have Jodan, Tom, Steve, and Leanne. You guys out there?
When we hired him, he asked,
Trying to keep on a disciplined timeline.
forgot about it.
Kim, can you help me out with that?
I think they
Okie dokie.
It's okay
They're
to
coming.
bite. Our numbers dropped.
Yep. Not typically, though. More than most.
No, usually we lose more.
Yeah.
These are the lifers.
All right.
Let
Hey.
the eye rolling begin.
Next.
Line 15, you're like, I'm dedicated. I'm here.
Next item is the budget strategy. Before we begin, though, I'd like to acknowledge someone with us here. Debbie, you are the finance director. You have also exceeded your responsibilities throughout this process, diving into budget matters, and I really appreciate that. I know maybe it's looked disjointed at times. It's been frustrating for some of us, this whole process, getting information late and being sick. All that aside, no reflection on you. You've done great. And, you know, so thank you many times for your patience, you know. Don't worry, we're not going to make you the budget officer. So you're doing real good. Okay, presentation from, are we doing a presentation? Is there something you want to show us before we open up for?
I have the manager's presentation that he gave on the 28th. I can put some of those slides up if you want to go through them.
I don't
I think that'd be
particularly.
beneficial to
I mean,
people in the
whatever.
audience.
I see there's 43 of them.
I had a
by
abbreviated one,
PowerPoint.
but it doesn't appear to have saved on here. So, but I can go through, and I was going to start here. Let's see if I can get this to pop up here. So this gives your budget revenues versus expenses. So your revenues for your general fund, expenses for your general fund, and also enterprise revenue expenses showing your balanced budget. This included a 2-cent property tax increase, 6.2% increase on Marina Dock, and that was taking us to $400 a month.
Ed, back up one. We're just going to have to walk through this a little bit, please.
Sure.
Thank you. On the general fund, you have revenues at 15.5 and expenses at 15,170. As I read that, then we would have excess revenue to put back into the general fund?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I just want to make sure we're all tracking this, because we've seen some different numbers, we've had different conversations. So keep moving forward. This is based on the manager's presentation that he gave us
On the 28th.
on the
Yes.
28th.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So if there's anything he's talked to you about or changed since then, it's,
Well, I think there was some changes. I mean, Debbie
Right.
So are those changes then, Debbie, reflected in that 15.5 in revenues versus expenses? Is that why the expenses went down 15.1? Because you took out those 4 positions? Or is that the same number? I mean, I've got it spread out here. I've got 6 different versions of this, and I'm trying to understand exactly which one we're working on.
Yeah, the revenue number is still the same, but the
Expenses went down. Right.
Yes.
And it went down by the amount of those 4 positions that were removed in the budget, but the dollars remained.
Correct.
Right. So now we have an excess of 400, 330.
And is that the number you emailed us, the 560,000, not?
No,
Or is
that's,
Uh,
Yeah.
Since that number, we added that 136 for the Clarendon
Okay,
Avenue
but-
match.
The 560 less than 136?
Correct.
so those are the updated numbers on revenue and expenses for the general fund. And those are the same expenses for the revenue and expenses on the enterprise fund that we saw on May 28th. Debbie, we haven't had any changes to those in the past 7 days?
No,
Or
sir.
have we? No. Okay. Thank you.
So, do one more question for Debbie. What does that reflect in COLA merit and retirement?
The numbers that I gave to you in your handouts still had the
311?
Okay, so let's just talk about that for a minute. That's 3%? It still has a 3% COLA?
That still had the 3% COLA.
So back up, Ed, if you would again, please.
Sure.
Because we've had some conversations amongst us, and we've talked to Lucky individually and said collectively, we're going to try and give you something that works for what we think we're hearing from, collectively from council. So you're saying that revenue, or those expenses, reflect 3% COLA, 1% merit, and a reduction down to 1% in the 401K?
Correct.
Okay, so as we had discussed earlier, we asked Debbie to provide us a number because it came to the attention, where's the number that she gave us? It was on the COLA and the merit.
Yeah.
1%?
Yes, so what's come back is I think some of us felt, and I'm gonna speak in generalities here, that maybe going from a 3% COLA to a 2% COLA would generate more revenue. It wouldn't, because it would reduce our expenses, so the net revenue would be better. However, staff has indicated that there's great concern among employees reducing the 401K from its current position to 1%. And Debbie, I think the way you had explained that to me is the 1% is an automatic 401 contribution made by the town to an employee's 401.
Yes, sir.
And currently, there's an opportunity for an employee to put 2% additional dollars in, up to 2%, which would then be matched by the town, giving an employee potentially 5% of their income into a 401K.
Yes, sir.
And that is transferable if the employee leaves from public employment to any other position. They can take their 401, it's transferable. I'm not an accountant, but isn't that what you explained to me?
Yes, sir.
So the manager's proposal to drop that down, is that not? 1, 2, and 2, I don't know, that's.
We match 2, and then there would be 2 added. So 1% automatic, then 2% would be,
And then the employees put in.
and then the employee put 2% in.
So that's 5. So an employee potentially could have as much as 5% of their income into a 401K, either their own contribution or town contribution. The manager came back and said, let's just change that all and just give them the 1 point, not allowing an employee to earn an extra 2% match. And that seems to have great consternation with the employees at Town Hall. So we asked Debbie, could you give us a number if we said stick with what would it look like if we said just leave the 401K match where it is, at 3? Right? And I think you told us earlier it was, and I have notes here, and now I've got them lost because I took so many notes on other stuff. It was $80-some thousand. It was, right. So the 3% total is 126. The manager said take it down to 1. So if you take 60% of the 126 and add it back, we're adding $80,000 to expenses on that 5.17.
Is that for one?
That's the 2.
Okay.
So what Debbie said is this past year, the town contributed $126,000 in the 1 plus 2, equaling 3%. Lucky has suggested just do the 1. So if you take 126 divided by 3, multiply it by 2, we're ending up adding roughly $80,000 back to that expenses.
Right.
Okay? And then on the utility fund, you had 38, and you'd end up adding back 23. So there's a little expenses that go back to the town, but we're talking about employee retention, right? Joe Dan said we got to make sure we're doing it. So the 401K is an issue that I still have. The manager's budget that they're presenting to us here has 3% COLA, 1% merit, and 1% 401. And I would like to suggest we look at, and I think Debbie ran some numbers, 2% COLA, 1% merit, and leave the 401 where it is at 3. So there's going to be some adjustments to that revenue and expenses. And what we tried to ask you today is what that's going to shake out to, and Debbie, I don't think had time to do that, but. And I guess this is where we're making sausage, guys, so speak up. I don't, it's.
Well, and I'm not necessarily against that. I think obviously if the employees feel like that's more important to them than the COLA adjustment, I think the COLA adjustment was a COLA is cost of living. Now, I don't think that I'm not sure what the current national inflation rate is, but the manager's proposal was to use the COLA adjustment as a vehicle to just get closer to what we need from the job study. The inequities.
Right.
In other words, if you move the whole pay scale up
Understand.
3%,
So
that gets closer.
I spent some time today
If you
with
do 2%, it doesn't get as close, but that's a conscious decision we can
I
make.
spent some time with our HR person today, and that pay study
Sure.
that came back
Yeah.
said in total,
Right.
to move everyone up according to what the pay study said,
Right.
everybody,
Right.
it's about $700,000, just shy of $700,000.
Right.
The way it was explained to me was we already have in this budget built in the police department increase,
Right.
which was $130,000.
And that would adjust part of it.
So that's 700, you get to reduce that.
Right,
The
exactly.
COLA takes out another $120,000.
Right.
But HR suggested that there are some adjustments in that pay scale that may not be valid for our particular community. That some of the jumps that are suggested, and that HR suggested that they would like a little time to meet with management and department heads to review what might be appropriate or not be appropriate. So I think we
Right.
were a little premature in saying we need to fund that across the board. And
My first
Yeah.
recommendation is, as we start speaking the things that we are now, is that we should probably at least try to catch our residents up, because right now we're jumping ahead of where we're being presented to them.
And just to make it fair, so that way they're gonna have the proper input on this, that we should allow this to run out a little bit more. So that way, because you're at this part of the road right now, they're at this part, so as we start to be in agreement, Ed, will you run through a little bit more, so that way?
There is.
It's right, this is it.
Yeah, you already have the link.
Well, it's on the
So,
website.
we have a budget that was prepared by the manager and presented to us, and before he left town, we suggested to him that we're gonna have a budget hearing, hear what the public has to say, and then we're gonna make some recommendations as council.
Right.
And those recommendations then will have to be formatted and republished, and the manager will have to take those into consideration. But it is the job of council by the end of June to have an approved balanced budget. The manager has written a manager's message, which is fine, but there are some things in the budget that we are hearing and that we have different opinions and that we want to fine tune.
Sure.
So what we're talking about are not necessarily numbers that are going to be on a spreadsheet tonight. So I think Jodan's right. We'll let Ed go through the process. You can look at these numbers and then grab a pen and
Right, and
ride along.
However, for anybody who's watching and listening, if you go to the town's website, you go to town governments, you click town manager. Under town manager, on the top left, it says proposed budget for 1920. And that should have all this information that we're about to go through now, for
Right.
anybody who's watching and who's at home.
And also, we will not be voting on the budget tonight
Correct.
because we've set that for the 25th. It'll be at 6
Tentatively.
o'clock, please note, not 6:30, but 6 o'clock. And I encourage anybody that's here or even in the internet audience to come out and speak at that, because that's when we'll be making whatever final changes we feel like we need to have before we can vote on it. Because at least 3 of us have to support it.
So just a question before we move on. I heard Steve make the comment. Does this include I thought it was $160,000 for the police pay study?
That's, yeah,
Why-
that was my.
130?
Yeah.
It was a little less than what was presented in January, because it was around 160, but
60 in
since we
January.
had some turnover,
So is that in this proposed, funded in this budget?
It's in the
Okay.
proposed budget currently,
Right.
yes.
Sorry, I just want to hear it from
Yeah.
Debbie,
That's right.
you know.
Yep.
Sure. Well, I'm glad to hear from Holly too, so that's.
Just to clarify, everything that's being presented through these slideshows is as of today.
Correct.
Right.
Thank you.
Well, this actually was May 28th.
Well, meaning it's a
With
moving
that,
target.
The slides there, yes.
Yeah, it's May 28th, so that's the reality. Understand some things may have changed since then.
And this is with a 2% tax increase. That's where these revenues are also generated.
That's baked in.
Yes?
That's what, yeah.
Okay, just to back it up one more time, Ed, just to summarize it, I believe what you're telling us is this revenue and expenses include a 2% property tax increase, a 3% COLA, a 1% merit, and a reduction down to 1% on the 401. It includes funding the police department pay study in its entirety to bring the entire police force up. And then it includes the other various line items that the manager had in there for capital issues, capital programs, maintenance and operation. It also had all of the vacancies funded. The only removals were the ones that the police chief said he no longer needed, those particular positions, and I think there was one other that was removed. It was 4 or 5 total. Other than that, all the positions that are vacant at town hall are in there and funded.
Correct.
And we still end up with, we have the net revenue.
What do you
of
mean,
400.
all the other positions? Now, we talked about, no, don't start.
No, I don't.
So-
You're right.
So,
We had a
but that's why
difference
I
of-
want to know.
we
We
had a
talked about
difference.
filling the water department, and we talked about filling the finance
Sure.
department. So how many other positions are still funded and unfilled in that budget?
On the general fund side, we have the David Burkle's old position. I can't remember the name of that position.
You have 30.
These, except for the bottom 5,
Yes.
they're all funded. They're not filled yet, but they're all funded.
Right.
Which means all of those department positions that were asked for are in the budget to be funded. And I thought the way we talked about it a week ago was we were gonna take those revenues of those positions and recapture those into a general fund reserve.
That's what I understood.
That
That's
was
why I'm
my,
asking
that
the
was my
question.
recollection as well.
That ain't happening. What's in there is.
So how much is that?
Depends on, $637,000 if you take out the sum, the 262 that Debbie took out already. So there's still $637,000 with employee funding in that 15,170. that we thought we were gonna take out and pay the police with, we were gonna change the COLA, and we were gonna get 250 or 300 into reserves. We don't have to do any of that, and we still end up with the 400 in reserves, and every one of those positions is full. And then what we talked about with the manager 2 weeks ago, so that's a little confusing to me.
I concur.
Which is why I thought those revenues would be higher, given the expectation for vacant, unfunded positions.
Should be another 600.
Yes.
Should be. So that, but the question is, and this is the manager's discretion, and this is what Debbie was telling me earlier, Debbie's got a position in the finance department that she says if we don't fill it, the LGC is gonna come back, and the auditors, I guess, not the LGC, the auditors are gonna come back.
It is LGC, actually.
Okay,
Well, I
they're gonna
think we
call
talked
it a
about-
conflict, right? Because she's doing jobs that the auditor says you have to split that function. And the only way to do that is to allow her to hire that person. I thought the only person we were talking about hiring was one of the vacancies in billing that would allow us to get the damn water bills out so people could pay and we could get revenue.
Well, I understood that Debbie had a state requirement to fill that other position, and that's certainly something we would have to do. But I don't really know about these other
All
ones.
the rest of those except for these, which the chief took out, you know.
Go right ahead, Ed.
Go ahead, Ed.
And for the public, in the past, and I'll just say it, I mean, I know there's certain positions that need to be filled and certain ones maybe not. I don't know. How long have they been vacant would be my first question. When they're a placeholder and we approve the budget, then somehow in the next year, all these people get hired, which is what happens. And that's why we are looking to pull it from the budget so that it won't sit there as a placeholder for a job that can be filled after we pass the budget, unless we are
But
kind
if
of in
the money's
agreement that
not
it
there
needs
to
to.
hire them, you can't hire them.
That's right, the money has to be there to hire them.
That's right. So that's why I thought we were going to look harder at these different unfilled positions.
Mayor,
Please.
pardon me.
Yes.
I have just confirmed with the finance director, the presentation that y'all are looking at was delivered to council on May the 28th.
Yes.
The budget message was delivered on May the 31st. So I am not certain that what you are looking at here is the actual budget message, balanced budget, that was delivered
Right. 3
days
by the
later.
deadline.
Yeah, because we had a
When
lot
is
of
he gonna get it?
conversation after that.
I mean, it has been delivered, but this PowerPoint presentation was prepared on May the 28th. So I just want to make certain that it
Perhaps
may
we
be
should
that
not
things-
look at it, and
No,
we
it's
won't
just-
have
the
any more
things
mistakes.
that y'all are discussing may have already been addressed
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
actual budget
Does anybody
message
see the
rather
value
than
in
what
going
you're
through
looking
this?
at now.
It's
Well,
dated
other than the
at-
fact
I just want to see the real budget. We've met 1,000 times. I'm sick of it.
Other
And I
than the
want
fact
to,
that this-
fix it.
This was presented on May 28th, but Debbie changed these numbers after May 28th. This screen right here has different numbers than what was
reflected.
presented
Yeah.
on May 28th.
So I'm not sure of the value of going through this. Counsel, what do you think?
Well,
Well, I mean, we did have a lot of conversation after May 28th. And you keep questioning all these things. We've got the budget that was presented with the message from the manager online. We've had access to that. Maybe we should just listen to the public and let's hear what they have to say tonight. Many of them have already seen the budget online.
If these aren't the right numbers, it's kind of hard
Well,
for the
I'm
public
just-
to comment.
I don't know. I did not prepare this PowerPoint presentation, but I do know that the budget message was delivered at 10 PM on May the 31st. So it has been published by the town clerk. It has been delivered, it was published, and so that is available on the town's website. But I just don't know, because this presentation is dated May 28th, whether or not what was put out on the public forum is the actual.
well, then let's
budget.
perhaps we should take 5 minutes and get the current budget that was put out with the budget manager and put it on the screen.
Okay.
Because,
Can you go to the website?
I mean, is that, can we put it on the website? Because I agree.
Let's find
I
out
don't
which
wanna be
one's
looking-
different.
All I know is it's June 11th. This is our June council meeting to approve a final budget. We've extended that. We've now had to schedule another meeting.
I don't have a keyboard, Jeremy. You got to.
At some point, Debbie is the finance officer. She's not the budget officer. Our budget officer isn't here tonight.
Right.
We are running out of time. If we need to bring in someone that can actually do a darn budget and help the manager, there is some people, there is an individual that could probably come to town hall and help do that.
I don't think that's necessary, Steve.
If I
Well,
don't
today's
get
June
some
11th.
numbers and some answers,
When
it is
we hired
necessary.
our manager, we knew he was going to be absent
this week. He already had a planned vacation. We agreed to allow him to do that. He prepared everything before he left, and he'll be back next week. And we can go on there. That's why we've got the 25th meeting, 25th as a meeting already scheduled. You know that, I know that.
That is the
That is
meeting
to
we vote.
That is to accept the final budget.
We
Generally,
would
as you know,
normally be
Tommy-
voting tonight, we'd have a public meeting just like we do now, and we'd be voting. That's no different. We
And
just
I would
moved
be
it to
voting
the
against the
25th.
budget
It's
if we
the
voted
same-
tonight.
It's the same date.
Yes, but in the past, Tom, we have had a public meeting prior to the final public meeting. We've had multiple opportunities for the public to come, and we've
Yes.
yet to show them a budget. I'm yet to see a final, we saw it online. We haven't had it presented. I'm just telling you,
Budgets always change. I've been on, this is my 5th year on council, and you've been here longer than I have. It's the same process we've always had.
I have, and this is the worst budget process I've been through. We
Well,
we
yeah.
had one contentious year where we did a revenue neutral, and we came in under revenue neutral.
Well,
I
we
think
have
we've
a
got
new
council
manager,
preparing-
and you were part of that, so.
You're right, and
But here we are now, and apologize to you guys looking at having to go through this. Yeah, well,
So the residents out there, we do apologize as we're trying to figure out if this is the current up-to-date what's being presented to us. It's very frustrating for us, and I'm very sure it's the same thing for you.
Hopefully we get
In
the
just a
vaccine
minute.
in.
I'll open up for
You
shortly.
wanna do it now?
While we're going to find the right budget. Is that the, yeah, just give us a second.
I don't know if there's a summary page.
I believe that's the utility budget. Is it not? Expenses at 940
30.
the utility. So prior to that would be the general fund.
Is there a summary?
It's broken out in the first section. The first section, you heard Tom, he don't want to do that.
Well, that's, you said you got
It's the same thing there, right?
I mean, we can ask somebody to.
We're gonna have
Hey,
a couple of-
has anybody found it over there, the current budget? Because I get a hard, all right, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to open up for,
Joe, never mind.
no, I want to do that because we've got folks out there that have things to say. I don't want to keep them here till midnight. So with that, I make a motion to open the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I
Dorian?
think,
Doran, you can go first.
First in line.
Start us off.
Since this is about money, and I'm very serious when it comes to money, are you aware as a council that as we speak, we have parking meters that are down up near the crush and grind that have notes on them? We're losing revenue as we speak. We've been losing it all day. I have pictures on my cell phone. That is managed by Lanier, am I correct?
that's correct.
Yes.
That's all I wanted to say. Town's losing revenue, you want to raise taxes, you want all these lavish things, and we need police officers more than we need anything else, and firefighters. We need to repair our infrastructure. We need our parking meters to work. Our contractors not doing their job.
Mr. Parvin, would you address that with Lanier tomorrow in front of Crusher and Grind?
Yes, ma'am.
And the Freeman parking passes.
Yes.
Yeah, we haven't forgot about that either.
We haven't got with Lanier yet.
Okay.
There's a number.
That's another horse that
There's
we
a,
need.
there's a
jump
portfolio
on.
of things that they need to.
That's for another
Anyway,
night.
thank you for bringing that up.
Probably the
tomorrow.
next one.
Anyone else out here with us tonight in Chambers would like to come talk?
Next.
Okay.
Oh, I almost saw one get up.
I'll tell you what, do we have the right one
I
up?
was anticipating somebody's gonna get up.
Let me know when we have the right one up. I'll close public hearing and then reopen it once we get if it's out there.
This is the line item budget that is the latest. Debbie just had me pull it up. So these should be your latest numbers as
Okay.
of the 31st.
We'll give public a chance to come after we see what, I guess this is the new budget. So with that, I make a motion to close public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
November 6th. You Army people.
Well, we just had a public session. I think we're gonna come back to that, yes.
I'm not opposed to that.
Ed, did the town manager
I
sit down
think
with
it
you
is.
before he left and said, hey, present this,
that's-
go through these things with you?
I've been out with Coast Guard for the last week,
This
so
is
I have
June,
not.
this is as of June 11th. That's what that date is in the bottom, is June 11th.
It's today's date.
So no, I can't offer any input on,
Anybody here who that he has?
I think the rest of the staff has.
Well, this is the budget that was put out. We need to go through it.
Well, what we got to do is figure out
Well, I want to make sure that's it.
what we want before the 25th. Because we do need to vote on the 25th.
Yes, we do.
I'm not necessarily opposed to Steve's idea that maybe we need somebody to go over it. I can't get the answers I'm asking for.
So, Ed, this is the revenue of the general fund. Can you get to the bottom line revenue of the general fund, and then let's look at the expenses? The general fund, there it was, 15 what? Back up one more.
This is.
It was 15.5, it was pretty close. So, I mean, we had a slide presentation. What I'm trying to get to is what the changes were that Ms. Fox pointed out between the May 28th and the budget that was posted at 10 o'clock. So it's 15,696.
There it is.
Right.
Those
Yeah,
are,
there it is.
okay, now, if you look at, that's the initial budget request, you gotta go over to the recommended budget report, which is 1593. So he's saying he carved out another $602,000.
Right.
He's saying, at the end of the day, I want you to approve 15,093,000 in expenses. That's the way I read that,
That's it, yeah,
right?
yes.
And Debbie, as far as you know, or Ed, as far as you know, those expenses include 3% COLA?
Yes, it's 3% COLA, 1% merit, 1% 401K.
Okay?
So
And
I
that
gotta
includes-
ask,
that
where'd it come,
includes-
how did we
And
fund
the
the
police
police
pay
pay study and get $600,000 back?
So he cut up some other stuff.
It's evident,
He got to 409,
yeah.
all right? So, but what I'm hearing you say is that 15.9 in expenses includes the 3% COLA, the 1% merit, the 1% 401K reduction. It includes funding the police pay raise as per the police pay study. And it includes a 2% or a 2-point property tax increase. Is that your understanding?
Correct.
And put $600,000 back in the general fund?
I don't know that yet, because that's just the expenses, right? So you got to go 15,093,921, and Ed, can you get to the last page of income? As Willard is texting me, yes, this is embarrassing. That's the utilities.
You're kidding me, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's showing that 409, 290 currently would be going back to the fund balance.
And does that include
Original.
funding these positions on this sheet of paper?
Yes, all of them except for the ones that.
Okay, but
that-
Debbie,
Original.
every other one of these reports you've given us has gone through an expense column, and we get to a total expenses, and it also shows a revenue that gets us to a total revenue. So somewhere prior to page 20, there must be a revenue page. It must be back up top, Ed, somewhere. This is just, having studied, there it is. back
Page
up.
7.
There you go. So he's got revenue, he's recommended revenue at 15,503. One of you guys out there that's got a calculator, what's the difference? 590,000, so it's $410,000, 409. 409, that's the number Debbie said was on the other page.
Right.
So this budget shows that we would have 409 available to go back into the general fund. That's what this budget shows.
I just kind of need to know where that came from. It didn't just get created.
Well, that
Came
was,
from somewhere.
that was we had 300 last week, and then Debbie showed where they had still had those 4 positions that weren't being filled, funded. So she took that out, it was 265 or thereabouts. She got the 5 and some change. We were all excited. We saw an email that said it's 565. She said, not so fast. We had to put in the
136.
Clarendon Bike Trail, the match that we
Right.
approved in January.
Right.
So out of that 5 and some change, they backed out that number, and you end up with 409. And I'm sorry to go so fast and round these numbers, but that's where it is. So that's how you ended up with 409,000. We had had some conversations offline individually just kind of canoodling over the last week of what would be acceptable, and I think we were sensitive to the employees wanting some kind of pay scale changes, and I think several people had kicked around some ideas of going from 3% COLA to 2% COLA, and then taking the 401K back up. As long as we got 250 to 300 into the general fund, there seemed to be some acceptance of that, and then Debbie spoiled that when she showed us we had 565, and then she crushed us when she said,
And I said, we want it.
right, right, and then she said 409, so, right now it's 409, and it's all those things they said. So the question is, do we want to tweak some of that and go back to Lucky and say, here's what council would approve? That's what we're here to do.
Broadly speaking, what would each of us like to see? I know that we've talked offline, Steve, you're right. We want to put something back into fund balance. Got to do that and show a trajectory up, responsible to have money in the event of an emergency. Police pay, absolutely.
It's in there already.
It's in there already, so that's baked into it. So what
I'll
do we
kick it
accept?
off. I'm
Yeah.
looking at 2% COLA, 1% merit, and leaving the doggone 401 alone at 3%.
But that's a budget impact.
It's going to take your 409 down to another 100. I gave you those numbers a little bit ago. It was
80,000.
Right,
It's
right.
82 and 20. It's going to take it down another 100 and some $1,000. So you're still at that 290, 300 into the general fund.
So loosely speaking, some of us said, hey, 250, 300 back into fund balance to show a trajectory is.
I said I
That's
would
good.
not support a two-point property tax increase unless we had at least 250 and the paycheck to the police, 250 into the general fund. I'd prefer to see 300. I'd prefer to see 3 million, but reality, 250 to 300, I could support that.
Yeah.
So, okay, so I'll throw something.
That's where I'm at.
I'll give you one more curveball. So, I would leave it up to Debbie and Holly and Lucky and Ed and whoever can come up with the answer, whether it needs to be presented to us and show us what the budget impact is of 211, 311, 113, all those different increases. Show us what works. I know, but, okay, just hang on. Could you give us that? Show us what you think works best for the staff. That's number one. Yes, we want to fund the
The point
police.
is, tonight, we should be presenting to
I'm
our
sorry?
residents. Tonight, our residents should be hearing these things.
I
Not,
don't-
hey, guys, we need to push this off another week so we can re-present this to you. We just wasted 3.5 hours of everyone's time to come to this.
I don't think we have the information.
I think Debbie gave us, honestly, Leanne, she gave us those numbers.
Well, where is it?
Well, she
I
gave-
don't, is it on screen somewhere for everybody to see, or?
We have a piece of paper.
So, and yes, we want to fund a police pay study. So I really kind of still need to know how many funded positions are placeholders on this list.
All of them.
Okay, so that's nine, we're not talking about the police officers.
That's right. All the
There's
nine.
9.
Right.
Okay.
Those are all in that budget.
So are we going to fund and fill all those 9 positions, or are we going to look at
That's
not
the
filling
rec-
some of
That's
them?
the recommendation of the manager.
The manager.
Well, he's not here.
Okay, the manager said, based on this budget, he still has $400,000 he can put in the general fund, and yes, he gets to fill all those positions.
Right.
Now, the things that we talked about tweaking were the COLA, the merit, and the 401. If you want to come back and say, on top of that, I want to take out all of those positions and capture that other $600,000, or some of them, or leave that up to the manager to that's the manager.
Well, I'll tell you what has happened to us in the past is we've held positions that we may or may not have been crucial positions, and they've been filled
Right. and
because
so-
we passed the budget with
Right,
them.
and what the manager has said is, I feel those are all critical positions. Now, you
Well,
can have a
I
different
always
time-
hear that. I hear that every budget
But I'm
cycle.
just telling you, that's what the manager said, he needs those positions. If you ask Debbie, she needs her person. If you ask the guys in. fire-
Everybody needs their people,
Right, I get that.
or so we hear, and then we end up with 130 employees with
I'm disagreeing
unfunded
with you. I'm
liabilities
just trying to
of COLA
explain
and
to you
merit.
what's been presented to us, and if you.
I get it. I'm tracking you. I get what you're saying. I'm just not saying I agree with it.
So which one of those don't you?
I don't know. I need to talk to somebody who can give me some information.
Okay.
So, and the next thing, I will go ahead and throw it at you. I don't think we should increase to 10% on the water bills this year. I think we should stick with the 5%
I'm
we
okay with
promised
that,
the
but I
people.
wanted to try
But
and-
how are we going to fund it?
I wanted to get through the general budget
Yeah.
first, and then let's tackle.
Well,
the
that's why I'm
enterprise. This is
looking
general
for the
fund.
money.
Well, we're
I want
talking
money
about
for
the
it.
general fund. Okay, so the question
You
is,
know, I get it. I got you.
okay, well, which one of those don't we want to fill?
Let's go with the,
How would I know? I don't know what they are. I don't know.
Well,
Stop.
okay, they're listed right there. Can
All
I have
right.
the sheet back?
No,
Since we're-
what people
since-
do and who's important to what.
In one sentence or less, I want to see 250, 300 back in. I like the recommendation
that-
for something that's consistent with our employees as a compensation package of 212, whatever those numbers look like. Please pay, absolutely. That's all I have to say. I'd like to hear what others do unless there's saved rounds.
Well, I mean, I think, obviously, we don't like to raise utilities, but we do want to take care of the infrastructure. For many, many, many years, we did not do that. We've done it for part of the town. From my standpoint, I think we need to finish that. If we go down to 5%, then we're going to end up having to put more out of the utilities fund balance, and right now, that's pretty low.
Well,
It's 300 and something thousand we're pulling out of it. I don't think there's but 900 something thousand in there.
no, actually, there was a negative $120-some thousand at the end of last year, and Debbie told me yesterday that she believes we'll put close to $1.2 million back into the
Back into
utility
it.
fund account.
That's good. But the
Okay.
300,000 is coming out to balance it right now.
Right, so now you would be down to, my math would tell me that'd be
Right.
potentially $900,000.
So we could go down to 5%, but we'd have to.
Take another
bond
300, we'd have
payment
to,
is going to require us to have that income.
we'd have to
raised.
take another 300 out. I gotta tell you guys, let's just stick with one fund at a time.
Let's do
Let's get
general.
through the general fund. We
Okay.
can come back.
Well, she's the one that brought up the 10%. That's why I had to react to it.
So if we could get some information on the different budget impacts of what you guys were talking about with the 311, 211, whatever. And if we could, again, look at the unfilled positions, and Ed, if you could maybe go through the departments and look at those, and tell me how long they've been vacant. How long, I know last year there were police department positions that had been vacant for a year that never have been filled. Just not to use you for an example, Chief, but, so I want to know, how long have these positions been open, and are they crucial positions? Because on this piece of paper, his piece of paper, there's $600,000 sitting there in the budget.
Well,
If they've been open for a long time, they're not that crucial.
apparently, we had a problem getting utility bills out this month.
No, we talked about funding that one.
Well, that's one of
That's
these.
one of the ones we're talking about.
Then we
Mark
have
that
a
off.
wastewater treatment plant operator. We have a billing supervisor, a billing customer service rep. We have a public works supervisor. We have a remaining police sergeant that we're trying to fill. The other ones were taken off. We have a senior stormwater construction specialist. We have a stormwater construction specialist. We have an accounting technician level 2, and we have an administrative support specialist number 2. The total of those, as near as I can figure from Debbie's numbers, total load with FICA, benefits, everything, is $637,000.
Let me put that on a pause.
But the issue I'm saying is,
We wanna get-
we don't really know what those positions.
But that's not, I mean,
I know it's-
Leon, we
it's
don't
a-
agree, it's not our job.
We'll
It's not our
argue
job.
later.
That's not our job.
Not our job.
Okay, council, I want to make a motion to open back the public hearing and hear what the public has to say. All those in favor?
What'd you
Aye.
say?
Aye.
Aye. Motion, public hearing.
Oh, aye.
Motion passed. Please. Hi, Lynn.
Lynn Conso, 807 North Carolina Avenue. For what it's worth, we have a huge issue in this country with people not being able to retire because there's no money being put away. So like 5% of people can retire and have it funded independently in our country of people that are over 65 right now. It's a huge issue. It's a crisis. So Congress just passed an act today to try to help that. But the 213 or the 2122,
401K.
whatever you put in the 401K, you are helping people invest for retirement and have a retirement. So I would highly encourage you to think of that. I'm sure Holly's already shared that with you, but I would say that is a huge, huge issue that you should address with our employees.
To my understanding, the town
Thanks,
started
Lynn.
that back in the 16-17 fiscal year, the 401K, correct?
Right.
And then the very next year, we increased it to 1%.
I also say we have 99.9% participation by our employees. We have the highest participation rate in the state.
Wow.
They must think it's pretty important if it's that high.
Message received, Holly.
And I would, well, it's public. hearing.
Anybody else? Jerry?
I'm Gary Kennedy, 1001 Carolina Beach Avenue North. There's an important word that you said, and Steve actually said it. I've heard concerns from the employees. You need to listen to your employees. We spent hours talking about the police and listening to the police. You have an answer. Your employees want some type of retirement. So that is very, very important. So I ask you, listen to your employees. That's the only thing I've heard come back from you, that input from the employees.
Thanks, Jerry. Yep.
Hi, guys. Amy Hooker Kidd, Clarendon Avenue. I bet you know what I'm going to talk about.
136,000 to go back into the bank.
136,000 that could go back in the general fund. And just curious as well, so all the budgets that I've looked at, and Steve, I'm sorry, I know that I was driving you crazy. I'm like, what about this? You know, can we look at the link?
I appreciate that.
No, I mean, can we look at because, like, all the budgets that I've looked at, and I've been hounding Debbie and Kim and Jerry and whoever else I could get in touch with this week, I'm like, is the multi-use path in the budget? And in every iteration I looked at, it wasn't, and then magically,
I will tell you,
it was.
You're right.
yeah, because your prompting reminded staff that we didn't have it. Sorry. Sometimes you get what you wish for. It wasn't.
no,
We
you
forgot.
can't
I
be
understand.
serious.
I'm serious. We forgot.
Wasn't until
No one
left
told
out.
Lucky that it was, in January, council approved it in January. We went through a hearing, we said, yes, we will approve applying for the grant, and in order to apply for the grant, we have to show that we have the matching funds. And so we did that in January. We got a new manager in February. We've been in a tailspin and a whirlwind since then. And Debbie, which is why the mayor pointed it out, has been doing a yeoman's job fixing some budget questions. One of those was, oh yeah, we forgot to do the set aside for Clarendon, because Jerry came back and said, guys, the feds are gonna yank the money. You gotta get the project going in September. Get moving. So
Okay.
yes.
So can you please tell me what bar is open after this so that everyone can come and buy me drinks to console me for reminding you guys of the project that I would like for you to forget?
Jerry would've caught it.
Anyhow.
Jerry would've caught
I know, he's a professional. So anyhow, I just would like to remind you that that is $136,000 that could go back to the general fund, or many other fantastic and very necessary things that the general fund could fund. Gracias.
Hey, Patrick.
The night's not over, Leanne. Patrick Boykin, 702 Elton Avenue. With all the questions that have been going on here tonight, it's hard for the residents, as I sit out there, to get behind it and say, yes, we'll support a 2-point increase on property taxes, as well as, some percentage increase on utilities. The information's just not there to say, I hear you, and it's the right thing to do, so it seems like there's numbers being tossed around, and I think I heard earlier tonight that the 2% increase on the property tax would yield about $400,000. We've talked about $400,000 here, so, it just seems like there's still work to be done to convince the residents that you're making the right decision. Thank you.
Thanks, Pat.
And to convince council as well.
You took the words right out of my mouth. Yeah. Welcome
Great minds think alike.
to the crowd. Anyone else? Okay. Sure, there's more to present.
More to come.
I'm going to make a motion to close public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay.
So I have a few things.
Yeah.
As far back as 5 years ago, each budget says the same thing, that we want employee retention, increased pay, and to take care of them. Every year since then, the percentage of employees that leave this town is increasing. Whether it's a correlation not to management, to leadership, or to us adjusting their benefits. But to give residents an idea, currently we offer no COLA to our employees. We offer a 4% merit and a 2% 401k. The year before that, we offered 0 COLA, 3% merit, and 1% 401k. The year before that is when we created the 401k. We offered 2% COLA. So if you notice, one thing as an employee in most organizations you work in, you want something that's set. And this is one of the things that we've done every year as council. Whether I'm on council or the people before me, is every year we immediately go to their COLA, to their merit, to 401k. That's a small correlation on why staff is leaving. I would love to put something in play, and we find a way to keep that there. That way they know that there is something that's consistent all the time. If I was an employee here, what the hell? I might not get 401k, I might get COLA. My merit's 1%. Most organizations offer anywhere between 5 and 7. So that speaks volumes on why our staff is leaving. Whether leadership's not doing the right job, yeah, that could be one thing. But you go to your work more importantly because of happiness. Yeah, you can take a small pay cut to pay the bills, but at the end of the day, you want to know that you're happy and you're comfortable. And if we aren't doing those things as a town, then that's a thing that we're going to fight every year. In regards to the general fund, I'm happy to see we're putting money back into it. Last year was my first budget. I was a bit upset, and I didn't like the process that it went down. This year is a bit of a shitstorm, and I'm really not pleased with it. Excuse my mouth. Because here we are, the final hour. We're not happy. The person who should be here isn't here. However, I do understand he's on vacation. We have town people that don't know if this is the right thing that we should be presenting to our residents. So there's a lot of small hiccups that are going on during this budget season that have all of us frustrated. We're not necessarily frustrated with each other, but with the system that's been going on for the past 60 days. So in regards to the general fund, I'm cool with 200 grand going back into there. I'd prefer not to raise the taxes, and I'd love to be able to throw some money back that we can take care of the staff if we can in regards to pay. I think that, again, we need to find some sort of COLA merit 401k that we leave in play and just leave it there for the next, until someone says, hey, not next year, we gotta change it. So yes, I do like the idea that Steve, the 3, the 1, and the 2, but at the same time, yes, we need to put money back in. If I'm correct, the 5% for the utility equates about 280,000, correct, Debbie? Roughly, I think is what that was.
She gave us that number, that's about right.
So for residents that, obviously it does suck that your bill may go up $7, but 10% equates for $500,000 that go back into the bonds and the loans is paying for what we're doing infrastructure-wise. So where do we find those balances at, and what do we do? Do you want taxes to go up, or the utility go up $7? It's hard to bite that bullet. More than likely, it depends on who goes with that, yes, but no. If we are able to cut this much money, the original budget he presented was this. Then we went back and it was cut $400,000. Now it's cut $600,000 with the possibility of $136. It could slide back in there. So yeah, it is frustrating for me. But that's my 2 cents. I'd love to see at least, hopefully, 200 grand go back in. Benefit-wise, 213, I'm 100% cool with that, and I would love for it to stay that for eternity, and then we kick money back to take care of our staff.
Well, where's that money come from?
But we have 400,000 right there.
But if you're talking about keeping a constant, and then all our bills go up
The
every year.
utility's gonna go up. Utility goes up 5%, that's 280,000, and kicks back in on top of this, or the $500,000 that goes.
Okay, well,
That's
let's.
different fund, I'm sorry.
We're gonna talk about
Side-
utility,
side
that's
fund.
okay, because Debbie put it up there earlier.
We'll look at that.
It's $1.2 million
It's going back
in
into
new debt service. You gotta cover $1.2 million in new debt service. That's why the manager came back and said, you gotta go to 10%. I think we can do the $1.2 million because we already have some revenue, we're already in excess.
Yep.
I think you can do it at 5%. I can support a 5% utility rate, and if we cannot afford all those projects this year with the 5%, we don't have to fund them. And if that means we can't do everything on the north end, or we can't do one of those other projects, we can't do them.
And we wait.
But going up 10% to me is not a swallow I can handle. I can get to 5, and we're gonna have to do it again, but there's, at some point, we've got $100 million worth of infrastructure projects that need to be done in Carolina Beach. We bid off 27 million, we got another 15 or 17 on the books.
We just showed 36 million that's gonna be coming in the horizon.
What, I'm telling you, it's a total of 100 million, we did these numbers
Yeah,
before.
we did.
So at some point, you either don't do the project and you keep putting it off, which we can't afford to pay more in utilities forever. So on the utilities, I think we can direct the manager to live with the 5% increase, and those numbers that Debbie can't swing with LGC on our debt service ratio, and you can't cover the $1.2 million, we can't do them.
I agree.
Well,
I'm
I
okay
think
with that.
there- Wow.
I'm good with that. I think
Everybody
we
knows
promised the people 5% years ago, not 10%.
But we also, at that time, did not have another $11 million worth of projects
No, I
that we're now
understand.
financing for $1.2 million.
I
We've had
understand.
people
Right.
show up and said, wait a minute, what about I need this, we need that, the community needs, I mean, we came up with I think it was close to $11 million worth of infrastructure projects that Mark's saying, you guys, you need to do that. It costs you $1.2 million a year in debt service. So if we didn't have any of those projects, we don't have to raise utilities at all. Okay, don't do the projects. Tell the people on the north end, tell the people in Project C, you're not doing that. I don't think that's what our community, they said they wanted to do them. So I think we can live with 5. I would challenge the manager to make it work at 5. And if he can't afford all those projects, then pick the ones you can't do.
Prioritize.
Well, let me talk, please.
Didn't step on you, Tom.
No, I know you didn't. I just wanted to make sure I got my points in. It's an election year, I can tell. But the bottom line is,
I'm not running.
Huh?
Okay, go ahead.
I'm not running? I didn't say
Oh,
that. You're
Tom,
not running.
Tom, are you running for council this year?
I'm not sure yet. But one thing,
go back
is-
to you.
I know what I'm going to say right now, so let me talk. We haven't raised taxes in this town for a long time. Where in the world is anybody seen prices not go up? I mean, the cost of what we're doing in the ground for our infrastructure is just getting more expensive. Yeah, we can push it off, say 5%, but we're going to put off projects that we've got low interest loans from the state that will not last forever. They'll go away, which means that project will be more expensive later. And also, is it fair for the citizens to stop our infrastructure now when we've got a lot, A and B, they got that done. They've gotten the new infrastructure. Are we supposed to stop now just because the pressure's on? I mean, I think we need to stop. Now, obviously, if the public doesn't agree with us,
No, but Tom,
November they can vote.
what I'm trying to suggest to you is,
Yes.
Debbie says she believes we'll have $1.2 million in revenue above expenses this year to put back in the utility fund. Okay? The manager said he needed $300 and some thousand and a 10% increase. If you did a 5% increase, he needs $600.
That's it.
650.
300,
Okay, so we still have excess revenue. And yet, we haven't raised the fund. If we raise the fund another 5%, we should get at least $1.2 million next year, plus the increase of the 5, and I believe those will cover your debt on the new projects in C. And what I'm challenging the manager to do is to come back and run those numbers with Debbie and say, yes, we can afford all those with the 5% increase. And if not, you're right. People can vote in November and say, I
Absolutely.
want someone that'll do
Well,
projects
and
or someone
and
that doesn't
I
want to
don't,
do
I
projects.
don't disagree with them running the numbers and letting us know more information based on that. But the last information I heard was we needed the 10%. If they can tell me different, then
Well, I think that's what Debbie had on the.
prepared to vote for
I
different.
think that's what she had on the screen earlier, one of the very first slides that Ed had showed those utility rates. What was news to us in the last 48 hours is we're actually $1.2 million to the good in the utility budget at the close of 2019. This year's budget that ends June 31st, projected excess revenue will be $1.2 million. It is hard for me to look at the public and say, we're 1.2 ahead of the curve, and we still need to raise it 10%. That, you can call that election season, you can call that whatever you want, I call it math, and it's just too much for me to do.
Well, but we have to have some savings in that fund. We can't delete it totally. We don't have that much in there now. We may have some later, but you don't know what emergencies are going to take place. When we've dug in the ground, we found stuff that we didn't know existed that we had to correct. And those overruns, we may need that 1.2 to be able to do the projects. I just think that's short-sighted to, try to skimp it back. I just don't think that's a wise move. But I'm only one. We don't make any decisions as a council unless we vote in open session.
Yeah. So here's where I am. Great that the police pay. We already got that cooked in. That's a must. 5%, we've signaled and have for a number of years to the public 10, 10, 10, 5, 5. That's what we've been selling you guys.
Right.
So I think that's a good move. We'll have some numbers. Deb's already shown what that impact is, 280,000. Joe Dan's point on retention, talent management, and compensating the employees makes good sense. We heard about the TSP today. Let's see what that looks like, but that's probably where we go up. Fund balance increasing. Want to try to get it on a positive trajectory this year. We have. We'll show that. The next storm that comes is going to cost over $1 million, maybe $2 million. FEMA ain't going to pay us right away, guys. We have to have that money on hand to respond to it.
They're just now finishing paying us for Matthew.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I saw the post out there that said, You gotta get that money back from the feds quicker. They're still paying out
And
a few dollars.
and you guys know they work on their own time. So those are just a couple of broad strokes I have. I think we're getting closer. Maybe some of those positions, Leanne, that you show is not filled but funded, maybe there's something there that could,
And let me just be clear, we might need to fill them all, but I haven't been given information on that, and that's what I'm asking for. So maybe how long they've been vacant, and what is the ranking of their priorities? Might need to fill them all, I don't know.
So,
But all I see is $600,000 sitting on a piece of paper
what-
holding place spots.
so what information do you need to know that's going to satisfy your curiosity about this?
You talking to me?
Yeah.
Well, I said it a while ago, but I'll say it again. I'd like to know from Ed, how long these positions have been vacant, and what is their priority ranking per that department? If they've been vacant for a year, like some in the past have been in the budget, I would have to ask myself, how essential is that position if it's been vacant for a year? And who's been doing that job? I don't know, because I'm not the town manager.
so there's that. Debbie's given us the 10 to 5 on the water sewer rates, the difference there. We see a couple $100,000 back into fund balance, taking a closer look at the benefits to favor TSP. I rest my case.
And, Ed, maybe a description of what those positions are would be helpful.
Sure.
So I would just reiterate my concern that we've struggled through a budget season. This has been arduous. This is a debacle tonight. I think our manager, frankly, did not know what he was buying into on how to budget in North Carolina, and I would like to get the man some assistance. One of the reasons that we didn't keep an individual as a town manager is he didn't have the budget experience, and said he didn't want to do it because he didn't have the budget experience. And asking our finance director to create a budget, and several of our senior staff people have said, we're not sure where our budgets are. And, if Lucky was here, I'd tell him that to his face. We've got a problem. We need to get someone that professionally understands how to do a budget, and you better get this thing put together in the next couple of days or a week, because we got to vote on it by the end of the month. That is the state law. And for 5 people up here that are not in the finance business of government finance to try and figure out exactly what these numbers are is ludicrous. Our job is to do a 30,000-foot elevation and direct policy.
I agree.
I don't know what your job description is and whether you're important or not. I know that the manager says yes or no, the police chief says yes or no, or the fire chief says yes. That, we tell them, here's your budget, go fill your department. For us to do that, and I'm not it's just, we're not public finance people. We need to have someone come in and help the manager get it done. And there is a candidate out there that can come in and help.
And I'm
he's
perfectly
been here
happy
before,
with that.
Tom, and we need some help.
I understand that, but I think it's a little late to do that. We hired this individual, and we've got a budget. You may not agree with all the pieces on it.
Tom,
I don't
we
know
have a
what's in
budget.
it.
Tom, we don't have a budget.
We have a budget, and we have some tweaking we want to do, but we have a budget. I mean, I've seen a lot of numbers. That equates a budget. It's not a budget until we vote on it. That's the only difference between what this is and what we actually have as a
Tom,
budget.
it just sounded like you said we need help.
I don't think we.
I'm just
You
not
just danced around
confident
your own
and
words
convinced
right
that
there.
we're there yet, and if there's some help available, I'd certainly like to have it.
So the good news, just so, we have until July 1st, council has till July 1st to adopt the budget, and you can have as many public hearings as you like during that time period, and you can have as many,
I know, no.
And we have one on the
and as
25th.
many special meetings as you would like to have.
I detect
Right?
some
You can
level
just
of
recess this meeting
facetiousness
time.
there, and
No, I'm just letting you know. that
No,
you-
you're right.
You do
I
have
understand.
beyond the June.
We require you to
25th.
be here for everyone.
That is fine.
Not to look stupid and incompetent in front of people more than
I'd like to
once or
read it.
twice.
Well, we've had many, many budget meetings, and as you can tell, it's quite a passionate topic amongst council members because we're trying to do a good job and do the right thing. So we're not just letting it float through and say, here's the numbers, yeah, no problem, you get everything you want. We are not doing that. As you can see, we're not doing that. Now, we really are trying to do our job, and this is my second or third, I think third budget, and this is the most difficult one we've had to deal with. So,
the presentation is what frustrates us, guys. Like Leanne said, Steve, all of us up here would, damn it, we're trying to do the right thing.
we want
And
everybody
it
to be
is
happy,
frustrating.
everybody.
And that's not going to happen.
So,
Well,
Can't make
Dave
everybody
Brown's.
happy.
you making a suggestion?
That's it.
I made a suggestion.
Take a look at it and reach out to him tomorrow.
Ms. Fox, did you have a suggestion? You look like you do.
I do not.
Oh. You know, I mean, we don't even know if this person would be available to look at it.
We do.
We do?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a good idea, too.
The question is, this person doesn't necessarily want to step on the toes of our town manager, but I will tell you, today is Tuesday night, and we're not getting anyone back until next Monday. The last time I looked at the schedule, that's the 18th. You know, we've had 7 budget meetings. To go through 7 budget meetings and be in this position is just embarrassing. Sorry.
Yep. Final comments, council?
Said my piece.
Okay. Ed, you got anything else you want to show us that's compelling? Do we want to see anything else?
Well, I
Steve?
guess, is there a consensus? Would people want to have someone come in and help?
I say yes.
I say yes.
Yep.
There you
I said
go.
no.
What are you saying down there?
I said no.
Recommend
But
a,
I mean, listen, I'm saying no, that's all
okay,
I'm saying.
recommending a motion on that. Okay. Steve, do you have a motion? Because I did name it.
No, I have direction for the assistant town manager to get with the town attorney and discuss an individual and see if that person would be available and under what circumstances, and if so, I have.
Is that pass muster, Kim? Okay, done. All right,
JD?
let's move on.
100%.
Let's move on.
Debris removal.
Debris removal.
I think we should all just take a minute and do a little.
Zen.
All right, Jerry, speed it up.
I'm trying really hard to not roll my eyes.
I'll be jogging by tomorrow morning. Super
Thanks, guys.
See ya.
There's more, don't leave.
Janice, I'm trying really hard.
Oh.
It's late.
Exactly. Yeah. That's about how it goes.
No, Janice, you cannot go home.
All right.
Fire away,
Should
Brian.
be far less stressful. So every year,
How quick can you do this?
every year the town bids out the debris removal contract for our emergency services. This year we changed things up. We've typically gone through a different consultant. This year we used Roston Consultant, and you know, by going through the consultant, not doing internally, you're ensuring that you're going to meet all FEMA guidelines and you know, meet all your procurement standards that are in place. Just a point of note, 2019 was the first year in quite some spell that we had actually enacted our emergency debris contract. And some facts here for you. 725 cubic yards of vegetative debris were removed through Hurricane Florence.
Is that from us or from the county?
No, that's us.
From us.
Jesus
Carolina
Christ.
Beach.
Yeah.
450 tons of construction and demolition debris were removed and 863 cubic yards of sand removed from the roadways. Total, that represented a cost of
It's half of what we put on the
$497,000. So,
Yeah. That's half what we put on
No, we put almost 1 million cubic yards.
1.3.
Yeah, one.
the new contract, some of the pluses here, it's every year. It's been every year for I don't know how long. This is a 3-year with up to a 2-year extension, which will save cost and having to go back out for bid, how to procure that contract, and also establish a relationship with that contractor. Hopefully we won't have a relationship with them, but should the need be. The wide-ranging model that's in this contract, it does allow, we saw improvements that needed to be made within our contract this current year, things that could have been different for us through Hurricane Florence, things that we probably left on the tree that we could have pulled off had we had a contract in place. This nails down all that stuff. This nails down all the stormwater pipes that can be cleaned should we need it done. We didn't have that in place before. Leaners, hangers, things like that. It solidifies all that. We can do it. We just have to say when and do it. So it's a huge improvement for us. And once again, you know, the pre-positioned debris contractor in accordance also with the monitoring firm We'll ensure that we're quick, get the town up and going, and seek the maximum FEMA reimbursement when it comes time. So that said, we put the bid out. There were 4 very competitive, responsible bidders that submitted bids: Custom Tree Care, D&J Enterprises, DRC Emergency Services, and TFR Enterprises. Custom Tree Care, they were actually our debris contractor this current year through Florence. They did a fantastic job.
Oh, they did.
And DRC was our sand debris removal contractor this year, which this is also another change to this contract this year, is it is all one contract, not multiples, just one. That said, with the bid tabulation, the recommendation of staff is, and the consultant, is to offer a primary contract to Custom Tree Care and a secondary to D&J Enterprises, based on the bids and the quantification of those.
Questions, council?
Sounds good.
Okay. You're looking for a motion?
Yes, sir. Please.
Okay. With that, I make a motion, excuse me, guys. Make a motion to offer a contract to primary to Custom Tree Care and secondary to D&J Enterprises. And there goes my screen. Anything else I need to add to that?
As presented.
No.
As presented, yeah. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, Brian.
Ready?
Hello, Jerry.
Good evening. Late evening.
Okay, not to muddy the water or anything, but I got some other grant opportunities here we can talk about. And I've had this conversation with a lot of folks in town hall. It's springtime, early summer is budget season. It's also grant season. There are opportunities, present them, thumbs up, thumbs
Is
down.
that what STBG is, springtime budget grants?
Yeah. You're quick, you're quick, man. You got no, these are MPO grants, and they change the acronyms every year just to have fun with us. This mouse working? Oh, there. Uh-huh. Okay. Yeah, I got it. Oh, I can hit that. I got it. Okay, I'm up to speed now. So we got this is a pretty new call for projects, came out April 1st for applications for STBG grant funding. It's basically the same federal pot of money we've done a Greenway with, and Cape Fear project and Clarendon Avenue proposed. Projects had to be in the 2040 plan. This time they're letting us take them out of the appendix, which broadened the field some. So it's 80-20 match program. We ran this by the CB Bike Ped Committee and talked about a few projects. The one that keeps popping up is kind of the next top of the list is St. Joseph Avenue, Lewis Drive, dual bike lanes from Lake Park Boulevard, Lewis Drive around to Access Drive. So it's a high priority in your pedestrian plan, the bike plan, Wilmington, New Hanover plan. So here's the numbers, and these are based on some estimates we got from the contractor that did the paving a couple years ago, and I put a contingency on it. Something to always keep in mind with these DOT grant projects, if you got to plug in, always makes sense plugging in contingency. They require you to put in a 15% NCDOT admin fee. It was money well spent on the Greenway project in Cape Fear. We had an inspector on site every day, so it increases the cost of the project, but you got a professional out there every day monitoring the contractor. But anyway, so the total on this is 572, 222. That's the grant match breakdown. So to do basically $570,000 project, we're looking at $114,445 match.
So our 400,000 now would drop down to 280, because we have to have this to be able to match what the grant is, correct?
The total's 572, the match would be 114.
But because it's a budget season, that means that 114 we'd have to put to the side with that 136, correct?
Right.
So then our number went from 409
Right, and, you know, as fate would have it, the applications are due July 1st. So if we're gonna do it, I've gotta have the resolution support.
So one of those isn't getting done.
I'm sorry?
Right.
So the Clarendon one, we had to put 136,000 to the side to match that grant. But this needs to be in by July 1st, so if we decided we want to push for it now, that means we need to take 114,000 and move to the side.
Right, and I thought about that too, and.
Don't get me wrong, this is super important.
And this is something we have been working for so long, is to
I know.
get bike lanes
So-
or sidewalks. We could do either one, right, Jerry? Bike lanes or sidewalks
We could.
on St. Joseph Street to get people off of Lake Park Boulevard. And that is the road they're using to get off of Lake
know.
Park Boulevard. And, you know, I hate to turn
I
down
used
that
to live off St.
opportunity.
Joseph's, I know. It's
Right, right. I go down there every day, and we all do, and people are in the middle of the street on the curvy roads. And I understand we're talking about money, but wow, what an opportunity to get that done on St. Joseph Street for the citizens.
But we gotta replenish fund balance, you know.
When do you need
That's
that
where-
money, Jerry? When would, you need a resolution to move forward with the application. That doesn't mean we get the grant.
That's right. I need a resolution to apply for the grant,
we
couple
have to
months
show
out.
that we have the money.
And once we get awarded, then it's, I mean, we're talking next year before we really spend any money. By the time you go through the process.
Could we
get the
push it
agreement.
into next year's budget season?
We would be into needing to spend some design money.
Leanne, you mean into the 2021
Correct.
budget? So
The
next-
issue is if we don't get started petitioning for these grants, it takes years to get these things done. I mean, we really have to, you know, be forward thinkers
Yeah,
to
I mean,
get that done.
here's another angle to it. The MPO, they've got a backlog of money. They get a lot of money in every year, and they've got a backlog because everybody's got a lot of projects going on. Everybody's choked with projects. They're trying to shovel money out. If they don't use it, they'll lose it. And so this money, they ask for projects for the 2020 through 24 budget. They said, give us your 4 years worth of priorities. So I got a couple more things to show you, but that's not to say there won't be another, and I questioned that. I said, does that mean you're not gonna take any applications next spring or next fall? He said, no, we'll probably open it back up. We're just trying to, you know, get people to think long range, and so we may fund some of these projects. We may only fund your design dollars. You know, they may only fund that, but it's like, you know, I get 15% design included in that total construction cost. So they may say, we'll fund you for design this year and then next year. So I don't know until I send it in.
And
But-
St. Joseph Street was, what, number one priority, I think, or two?
Yeah,
On that
bike
list?
plan. Yeah, we're down to it, you know, behind, you know, Clarendon was number one in the bike plan, and, you know, we've got the Greenway, we've got Cape Fear done. You know, we're just going down the list of priorities from that.
And I do have a lot of concerns with the Publix and the shopping center coming. I mean, what kind of traffic is that gonna put on that area, and what about the safety of our pedestrians? And that's just, I'm throwing that out there. I'm in favor of the resolution, but I know Steve's been working on it with MPO.
You know, I am in favor of it. And yes, I hear the budget concerns.
Yeah.
And yes, I don't want to raise property tax. I've been doing this is my 8th budget. We've never raised them yet. We're looking at this year. We haven't had increases in gas costs more than it did 10 years ago, or
Right.
8 years ago too. Anyway, bottom line, we ought to do it. Our residents what I keep hearing people say is, gosh, what makes this a great place to live?
Right.
Family, community, place. What are the kind of things we want? We want that small town feel. One of the things you don't get in a small town is a lot of traffic. We have a lot of traffic. The way around that is bike trails and sidewalks. You might call that a frivolity, you might call that a luxury, and it may be, but if you don't start, you'll never get it. So you gotta start putting these things in the budget. And we can have a difference of opinion of that on locations, because I understand when it's in your front yard, I get that. But I can tell you that for every person in here that says, I don't want it, I hear from 8 or 10 that say, we need more. We did the bike trail in the Greenway, people love it, okay? And we're getting more and more experience. It is a danger when a particular resident calls me and says she can't ride her bike on St. Joseph with her 2 small kids to get down to Nikki's for some sushi. She said, I want more bike racks. What do I need to go? Door to door and get petitions. I mean, you got to start somewhere. I know that doesn't work for everybody. It works for a lot of people that are calling me, and I can support it.
I think we're not saying we're not for it, but however, that just means we have to put 114 to the side now, correct?
I don't know, because I think what Jerry's saying, the way I understand it, we have some time. It'll probably be next year's budget, but you got to do some design stuff. The question is, if you do the design stuff and you choose not to move forward in the future, then you have flushed that money.
That's right.
And there's no way around that. I mean, you just, I'm gonna tell you how it is. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
St.
the way
Joseph
it
needs
is.
it. You need back roads to the back bars.
So I guess then the confirmation is, can we assume, I guess no way to know for sure, Jerry, but if you could track that down, will this be an impact in the next budget?
As far as money out of pocket, they're all reimbursement grants.
Correct.
So once you adopt the resolution and we apply for, we get the grant, and then we get an agreement, and once we sign the agreement, we're committed. And with that commitment, we're still not out of anything except what we spend. If I say the project costs $500,000, $100,000 design, if it comes in at $50,000, that's all we spend, and that's all we get reimbursed. I always bump it up. I always put a contingency in there, because I'd rather be high than come back low and say, hey, I'm 100 over, I gotta come back for more dollars. But, it's the actual construction dollars, that's where you get into the big bucks, and that likely with the DOT process, although they're streamlining it, it's gonna be probably next summer earliest before we get a bid on anything.
Start looking.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to turn down
Yeah,
almost $500,000 in money given to you that directly benefits our citizens.
I don't think any of
It's
us
just
are
hard.
against it, just,
We need to be sure we know there is a,
And I think Jerry's saying he's on a
Yeah, shoot
time
for it.
restraint to apply for this grant, so he has to know tonight.
rock and roll.
now you're going to present us with something else that we can motion for both or one at a time.
That would be, there's a couple more parts. It's good news from here, but I need, if you want to move
I
forward.
think all of it is. We get a lot of feedback. Bike and ped, more of that, good. Less stormwater, bad.
Yeah, I got some free stuff. Hang on. So I need Resolution 19-2202 adopted if I'm going to apply. I got to submit that with the application.
Okay, so if we're going to proceed, you need me to recite this, Kim? Yes? No? I'm looking at Noel, she's... Yeah,
Right.
that's a lot of words. Okay, yep.
I make a motion to support resolution number 19-2202.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Okay, there's a couple more parts to this. We talked about this earlier. This was the DOT granted approval for us to get a traffic signal at Lake Park and Hamlet. We didn't ask for it, but they did the traffic study, said, hey, you can have it, we don't have any money. We're working closely with DOT. There's a TCC DOT liaison that approached me and said, hey, I'm gonna help you get the money and get that light. I said, okay. So she's actually putting this application together. And she said a couple months ago, she may be able to get some money for the match. I said, well, that would be great. I got an email yesterday. She said, I think I found you the money. It's not 100% yet, but it's a pretty good maybe. Anyway, this one, total cost of the traffic signal is $221,000. So the 80% grant would be $176,800. 20% town match is $44,200. So that $44,200 is, where I'm pretty sure she's gonna come through with the money. I'll know in the next several weeks. But in the meantime, the MPO staff tell me, you better go ahead and adopt a resolution if you want the light, just in case that money falls through. I said, okay, we'll play it both ways and play it on the safe side. Anyway, if you want to proceed with this one, it's resolution 2203.
Can we relocate the flashing, blinking sidewalk lights that we just put up there, if we get that street light?
We've already got, where'd Brian go? We've got, no, I snuck up on We've already got lights there, but what DOT approved us to do is double-side the blinking.
Right.
Yeah, but this is for a
Put a
traffic.
stoplight there.
Right. Oh, put them somewhere else.
Yeah, we can
I
relocate.
mean, we just paid for them. Good answer.
Yeah, maybe that goes back to the final ask, the consolidated encroachment.
And so we didn't ask for that, and they're going to give it to us, and it's costing us minimal money. But that is an area that the DOT found was very hazardous right there at Hamlet Avenue, and we've heard a lot of citizens say the same thing, because that's where it becomes 4-lane, correct? Is that right?
Right in that area.
Yeah, right in that area, so the traffic is faster through there.
Okay.
And I know it seems like a lot coming from Jerry and the bike ped, but we're trying to get ahead of how fast our town is developing, because we know if we don't get ahead of it, we're going to be lost. So,
Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of rare. You don't ask DOT for something, they come back and say, hey,
I was
qualify the
surprised
traffic
too.
counts and all the things they look at, pedestrian counts, it warrants a signal there.
And they felt like that was a safety issue at Hamlet.
And it'll affect traffic, slow traffic downtown, and so, anyway, so that one again is resolution 2203. If we don't, and that says you're gonna provide the match, but if we don't need it, get the DOT money, then we don't have to spend it. DOT will pick up the ticket. This is an easy one. They'll just do a work order, put the light up. It's not gonna take, you know.
All right, Jerry. Yeah, no, that's great. And I make a motion to adopt Resolution 19-2203. I don't have it in my stack, so. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, that's just another picture there. Hamlet. There's some other stuff I'm not gonna get into that they approved us to do on Hamlet, but, there's a lot of good interaction with DOT. The other couple projects that actually came from the, Lake Park Boulevard sidewalks, north and south, or on the south side, maybe a multi-use path. The manager had asked about that. DOT had pointed out that we need to complete the sidewalk system on Lake Park Boulevard if we're gonna ask for things like crosswalks. Because they don't want you dumping the crosswalk traffic where there's no sidewalk on the other side of the street. Then you're in no man's land. So these obviously are not, it's over a mile of sidewalk, and we just don't have the engineering in the background to do it right now. I think these are next year projects, next spring projects. Anyway, they're filtering to the top of the list. So we just need to do a lot of preliminary engineering, take a look at that stuff. So that's it for that agenda item. Unless you have questions.
Thanks, Jerry.
Thanks, Jerry.
No, just thanks for your work on all that, Jerry.
Yes. Damn good grant writer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Get me out of there, will you?
I mean, there's no way we could have done some of these things in town without those grants. We just would never even be conceivable for us.
You just hang out with Joe Hutchinson, you'd be.
You know, man,
You get Joe.
cool hair.
Bike pit
I need Joe
route.
Hutch.
Yeah. Okay. This next item, something that Bike Ped Committee's been working on for quite a few months, and everybody feels like it was ready to bring to you for information. We got a map and a proposal to sign some of the bike routes. We don't need a formal adoption of the map or anything like that, just sort of acknowledge it. We've had, I don't know, is Mike Hopper still, Mike's still here. We got a couple committee members here, but we've been working on it for a long time. Of course, the purpose is to provide a map of good routes to walk around town. We've had internal staff, we had committee, subcommittee, we had the Wilmington MPO staff look at it, Town Technical Review Committee look at it. And, you know, the content's gonna change over time. So what you're looking at tonight, you may have comments, you may say, what about this, need to correct that. That's gonna be an ongoing thing. But we wanna say, hey, it's a pretty good map, shows some good routes. So what the idea would be to get the map out there, and we got a full-size version, probably do a blow-down version for brochures, printouts, get it out there on all the town media. Because you can ask Nyla all the time, people stop in and say, hey, where's a good place to ride a bike and walk around town? So put that out there. And then, so the next step is signing some various routes around town. So I'll move on to the map. I know you've all been waiting on. This is a cost. We walked around, if you do all these routes, we need about 150 signs, and we would purchase a Sharrow stencil template to do some pavement markings with, but about $4,000. Let me just show you the maps.
Because this is activity related, would that come out of the early?
I was just getting ready to say that, Joe, down. We're like on the same page. Well, and you know, I talked